What's up, YouTube? Back at you with another video. So, we're here with the Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo fight announcement. Now, long story short, something told me today to do a video and get on camera and talk about Jermall fighting Canelo. So, I'm setting up to record the video, and as I'm setting up to record the video, I go on Instagram and I see a Canelo Charlo poster, and I'm like, yo, is that Jermall? So I'm like rubbing my eyes. I'm like, yo, is this Jermall? And then I see it's Jermell. So we've got an article courtesy of Yahoo Sports. It says Canelo Alvarez to fight Jermell Charlo, not Jermall, on September 30th. The article goes on to say that Canelo Alvarez evidently is going to fight Charlo in September. Only it's not the Charlo it was reported to be. The undisputed 168-pound champion indicated on social media that he is going to face undisputed 154-pound champ Jermell Charlo, not his twin brother and 160-pound title holder Jermall Charlo, and sources have confirmed the news. It says Alvarez's first fight with Premier Boxing Champions will take place on September 30th in Las Vegas, he said on Twitter. He didn't mention the venue. It says Alvarez recently signed what is believed to be a 3-fight contract with PBC, which manages a number of the top fighters in and around the Mexican Stars division. He reportedly had been in talks with Jermall Charlo, who has dealt with mental health issues, hasn't fought in more than 2 years, and would have had to move up one division. However, that fight couldn't be made for undisclosed reasons. Oh my gosh. Says Alvarez then turned his attention to Jermell Charlo, who also had publicly expressed interest in challenging Alvarez. Now, I have a few thoughts on this. First of all, I think it's kind of convenient that Canelo fights certain fighters at certain times. Frankly, I would have preferred Canelo to be fighting David Benavidez or Demetrius Andrade. You know what I'm saying? Because these are guys who are 168-pounders, certified 168-pounders, and they've been active this year with David Benavidez, washing Caleb Plant, and Demetrius Andrade fighting Damon Nicholson on the Tank Davis undercard in January. When I heard about Jermall potentially being in talks to fight Canelo, I want to see that fight, but at the same time, I'm like, I'd be lying if I said that Charlo would have been at his best, because his last fight was in 2021 when he fought Juan Montiel. You know what I'm saying? And that ring rust definitely would have been a factor and played a part in that fight. Now, granted, I have no doubts that Jermall would have showed up, 100%, but I still think that it would have been best if he would have fought somebody first at 168 before he fought the top undisputed champion. You know what I'm saying? And to me, I would have felt like, despite my respect for Canelo, I think that would have been a cherry pick, because if I was Canelo, I would want to fight somebody like Charlo, who has been relatively active. I wouldn't want to fight him off of coming off of a 2-year layoff, and then for people to say, oh, well, you didn't get Charlo at his best, you got him following a 2-year layoff. So that's my thoughts on Canelo. Now, Jermell is one of my favorite boxers, really of all time. In fact, it's really Errol Spence, Jermall Charlo, and then everybody else really kind of comes in at whatever order. But those are my 3 favorite fighters, you know what I'm saying? And this man is dead ass daring to be great, because he's undisputed at 154. And I was surprised, because I'm thinking if he was going to come back and fight anybody, he was going to defend his titles against Tim Tszyu at the end of the year. That's what I thought. But apparently, that must have been some kind of bait and switch, strategy, because at the end of the day, there's way more money in this fight than there is, in a fight against Tim Tszyu. So I don't even knock Jermell for taking that fight. And I'm assuming that 3-fight deal that Canelo has with PBC is most likely Jermell Charlo, because I'm pretty sure he probably was in talks with Jermall at some point, but again, they fell through for whatever reason, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Maybe Errol Spence, I don't know. That's been talked about since 2019, and maybe David Benavidez. So switch out maybe Errol Spence and David Benavidez, or Jermall and David Benavidez. But I think Benavidez is somewhere in that fight deal. Again, Canelo is going to fight who's most convenient at that time. Canelo is not going to come out and fight the top guy straight up. And that's just the truth. You know what I'm saying? Because, first of all, Jermell is going to have to move up 2 weight classes to fight Canelo. You know what I'm saying? He's a 154 pounder. So obviously right now on paper, Canelo has, you know, really all the advantages. And in one aspect, in one way, this is his fight to win. I just think Jermell, if he wins this fight, if he takes this fight, all the like credit that he wasn't given despite being undisputed at 154 pounds, not only is he going to get all that overdue credit plus new credit for moving up 2 weight classes and beating, again, arguably pound for pound the best fighter in boxing right now. Because it's not Terrence Crawford. Even though Bivol beat Canelo, it's not Bivol. Bivol is not number 1, it's Canelo. You know what I'm saying? There's really no disputing that because, you know, look at his resume and look at his losses. He's only lost to Floyd and he's only lost to Bivol. And technically, that was Canelo daring to be great by moving up that high to fight somebody like Bivol. You know, and the size advantage is really what beat Bivol. I mean, is really what beat Canelo, not, you know, anything else, in my opinion, if you watch that fight. It's just, you know, Bivol was too big for him. Jermall, I think Jermall was just on Instagram Live with Demetrius Andrade, and they were talking about making a fight for September, ironically enough. And what's funny, I was like, because they've had beef with Demetrius Andrade for so long, I said, with all this news going on with Canelo, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if Jermall was just playing Demetrius Andrade in front and like he wants to make the fight with him and just pull the rug out from under him at the last minute and then make the fight with Canelo, which, again, money-wise, there's way more money in a Canelo fight. So if I was Jermall, I would rather fight Canelo than Demetrius Andrade if we're talking about money. If we're talking about, you know, what's strategically smart, I don't even think it would be smart for Jermall anyway to move up and fight Demetrius Andrade straight up, because that's just too high a risk. Even though Jermall is a great fighter, but if I was him, I would at least fight, you know, I would have a tune-up coming off of a 2-year layoff and then fighting you know, a 168 pounder. I would rather it be, you know, a tune-up, so that way by the time I fight a Demetrius Andrade or I fight a Canelo Alvarez, I'll be ready, I'll be sharp. So there's no stone left unturned as far as my preparation and, you know, how sharp I am. But it's not a good look for Jermall. And Jermall, stylistically, out of all 3 of them, he's my favorite fighter. But I'll say why. Because a lot of people now, they're starting to give a whole lot of credit to Jermell and saying Jermell is the real brother that's really about that shit, you know, trying to fight all the top guys. And Jermall is the one that just calls guys out, but he's not really actually trying to, you know, fight people, which I don't think is true. I just think, I don't know, politics kind of gets in the way of a lot of these things happening, or the fights that are being talked about don't really make don't make that much sense, because he's still, you know, the WBC champ at 160. And even when he was talking to Jermall, he said he didn't want to move up to 168. He said he wanted to stay at 160 or fight at 165. So I don't even really know what's going on with Jermall at this point right now. I think, again, he'll probably be back at some point this year, most likely maybe fighting Andrade if, you know, all of that Instagram Live talk wasn't just blowing smoke and it was actually a thing. Or I don't know what's going on, you know what I'm saying? But basically right now, Jermell is on pace to be like number 1. So if he was never on anybody's, you know, pound for pound list before, he's going to be after this fight. Because to become undisputed at 154 and then move up 2 weight classes to fight the undisputed 168, you know, champion, and you never even fought at that weight class and you beat him, come on, man. Come on, man. There's literally no denying how great Jermell Charlo is. And I think both Charlos are great, but Jermell, he's the one that's really just has had a consistency, you know, in the last, you know, couple of years. Really ever since he lost to Tony Harrison, that like basically revitalized his whole entire career. And that's actually what separates him from Jermall, and Jermell has said that a bunch of times. Now, I don't know how Derrick James is going to have the time to really be doing all of this. And shout outs to Derrick James, because simultaneously he's training Errol Spence. Frank Martin has a fight, coming up in very early July. Then freaking Jermell right after that. Like, it's just like that man, he must really love the sport, because in order to train all of these guys in such top tier camps back to back to back, it's like he deserves a long ass vacation if he literally trains Errol Spence to become undisputed at 147. Freaking Jermell is already, undisputed at 154. And for him to move up 2 weight classes and beat Canelo, Derrick James is one of the greatest coaches of all time. One of the greatest trainers of all time. Guaranteed. But anyway, I just want to talk about stylistically how that fight is probably going to play out in my mind. And I'm going to wrap things up after that. So, I think this is, I want to say, in my mind, it's a 50-50 fight. When you take a look at Jermell's style and you look at Canelo's style, basically this is going to be an action-packed fight from start to finish. All right? Now, I am going to be rooting for Jermell to win. But as of right now, I don't know who's actually going to win that fight, only because Canelo has been at 168 for years, and he's been fighting at higher weight classes for the last few years. Jermell has never been, past 154 pounds. So his body is going to have to get acclimated to fighting at such a high weight, relatively speaking. Obviously, these are not, heavyweights, but, So I think Canelo is definitely going to be the favorite going into this fight. I think Jermell is going to pose a lot of questions to Canelo in that ring, because Canelo has fought great opposition throughout his career, and I think with the way, or the fighter that Jermell has become in recent years, I think it's safe to say that Canelo has not fought anybody exactly like Jermell Charlo yet. And I hope this is not a Kell Brook Triple G situation where, Kell Brook dared to be great, moved up 2 weight classes, told everybody, yeah, man, I was just, cutting weight to make 147, but 160 is my actual weight class. And fucking Triple G broke his ass down and sent his ass packing back to 147. And he literally never went that, high up in weight ever since. So, but I think Jermell is a way better fighter than, Kell Brook. And I know Jermell's career has been leading up to this point. Especially, the draw against Castano, and then the second fight, their rematch, being a stoppage. So I think Jermell, he's going to be fucking locked in, because everything that has ever happened in his career, from all his wins to his loss, to his one loss, and everything, it's just, this fight is the culmination of his whole entire career up until this point. And I think Jermell is going to leave it all in the ring. And this is why I can honestly say, although Canelo on paper is the favorite and it's his fight to win, because again, he's 154 pound and moving up 2 weight classes, but Jermell, come on, man, fucking Lions only. Jermell is not going to waste this opportunity. Jermell is going to put on for Texas. Jermell is going to put on for his brother. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think Charlo winning that fight is really going to flip the sport of boxing upside down. And then again, is going to make Charlo essentially one of the faces of boxing. And he's got the personality to actually Jermell is good for the sport. He's got the personality. He's got that villain edge to, really spark new life into the sport of boxing. Because I think it's time for Canelo to go. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm not going to say that. I'll just say it's more so like it'd be nice to see a new face of boxing, and for Jermell to finally get his credit. And I wonder how that 3-fight deal would play out if he loses. So I think what would happen is that if Jermell wins that fight, they're going to rematch. So it's probably going to be a trilogy. So kind of like how Canelo Triple G was a trilogy, they will probably do, the same thing, because the narrative behind this is so high, because they're both undisputed. So this just makes for a great legacy fight for both of them. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the fight. If you liked this content, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Good luck.